Hello and welcome to the webcast So You Want to Be a Childminder. My name is Zoe, and over the next hour or so we are going to run through the process of becoming a childminder, and I hope to give you the information you need to make an informed decision about your next steps. So we are really excited that you are considering a career in the early years. Childminding offers families and children a wonderful start to their first experiences away from home and can be a thoroughly rewarding career. However, we recognise this is a big commitment, so we want you to know we are here with you every step of the way, and this webcast is the start of that journey. Please feel free to pause the video as we go through to take notes or complete further research. And please also take note of our contact details and do get in touch and ask us anything regarding early years. No question is too silly. In addition, do check out our newly updated website, which shares lots of information about the early years. Myself and colleagues from the early years team are more than happy to support you on your new adventure, so please do get in touch. Now, you may well have seen the recent government campaign, Be Part of Something Big. Now, the government recognise and acknowledge that working with small children is a big deal. It's a job that makes a real difference by helping to give children the very best start in life. Now, as part of this recruitment campaign into early years, they have created more accessible information on how to secure a career in the early years. Their website is well worth looking at to gain a better understanding of the roles available, including working within a preschool, nursery, wraparound provision, or as a childminder. Just Google early years careers, do something big. And working in early years really does make a difference. The early years are such a precious time, and if you choose to care for early years age children, you will make a significant impact to their development. Now, I wanted to share with you the science behind these big statements, and this visual represents how a baby's brain develops through 36 weeks gestation to 6 years old. So at birth, the average baby's brain is about a quarter of the size of the average adult brain. And incredibly, it doubles in size in the first year and then keeps growing to about 80% of adult size by age 3 and then 90% by age 5. And amazingly, a newborn baby has all of the brain cells that they'll have for the rest of their lives. And this is often known as neurons. But it's the connections between these cells that really make the brain work. Now, brain connections form through interaction and experience and enable us to move, think, communicate, and do just about everything. The early childhood years are therefore crucial for making these connections. At least 1 million new neural connections, known as synapses, are made every second, more than at any other time in life. So brain development really builds on itself as connections eventually link with each other, and this enables the child to move and speak and think in more complex ways. The early years are therefore the best opportunity for a child's brain to develop the connections they need, and the amount and quality of care, stimulation and interaction they receive in their early years makes all the difference. And we can see these connections happening. Young babies and children naturally serve up invitations to engage with their parents and other adult caregivers. Babies do it by cooing and smiling and crying. Toddlers communicate their needs maybe in a more direct way. Each of these little invitations is an opportunity for the caregiver to be responsive to the child's needs. And it's this serve and return process which is fundamental to the wiring of the brain. Parents and caregivers who give attention, respond, and interact with their child are literally building the child's brain. And that's why it's so important to talk, sing, read, and play with young children from the day they're born, to give them opportunities to explore their physical world and to provide a safe, stable, and nurturing environment. And this, again, is why loving relationships with responsive, dependable adults are essential to a child's healthy development. Now, these relationships begin at home with parents and family, but also include childcare providers and wider family and friends. Now, from 4 years old, you will see the image of synapse pruning, which is the natural process where synapses are discarded as they are no longer needed and thinking develops. And this really demonstrates the small window in which to make these initial connections. So I suppose what I'm trying to articulate to you is, if you choose childminding as a career, you are more than a minder of children. The term childminder really does not give this important role justice, as we will explore later in this webcast. If you choose to follow this incredible career choice, you will be an early years professional, nurturing, caring, and educating our future generations at the most influential time in their lives and literally building brains. Now, if you would like to know more about brain development, if you internet search the Worcestershire County Council Early Years Toolkit and click the Unique Child tab followed by the Neuroscience tab, you will find some videos which explain this really well. So I am hoping you are now feeling really inspired because childminding is an amazing career. It allows us to spend quality time with children and provide a safe space in which children can learn. It allows us to teach and embed children's learning through play and experiences. And it involves working alongside and supporting families through their parenting journey, which of course includes the safeguarding of children. And it provides us with the opportunity of flexible working from our own home, allowing us to run our own business and potentially care for our own children. However, please note you can't register as a childminder if you are related to all of the children that you look after. So childminding usually takes place in your own home alone. However, it doesn't need to be a solitary role. There is an opportunity to co-mind with up to 2 childminders at any one time. Each childminder must apply to register separately, and you only need to apply as a childminder once, even if you work from a number of different homes. However, you must let Ofsted know about all of those homes in which you work. So you can operate either as an individual or as an organisation. For example, I could be just Zoe Caulfield, or I could be Zoe Caulfield trading as Shining Stars. But for Ofsted registration purposes, you will be treated as an individual registered person. If you do become a company after you register, you will not need to apply again. Alternatively, if you don't wish to work alone, you can employ assistants and you would then become their employer, so would have to comply with employer law legislation. Assistants would need to get an enhanced check with barred list from DBS, and you will also need to use the childminder report new adults in the home service to inform Ofsted. Now, assistants cannot work unsupervised until they have received their suitability letter from Ofsted. And even when they receive a DBS, you can only leave assistants alone with children for up to 2 hours a day, and that is with parental permission. Now, if you want to leave children alone with assistants for longer periods of time, then the assistants must register as childminders in their own right. So if you work with 3 or more other childminders or assistants, then this moves from childminding to childcare on domestic premises. And in this situation, you must register with Ofsted or with a childminding agency. And finally, if you're looking after children in the children's own home, apart from your own children, then you are classed as a nanny and need to follow guidance for this separately. Now, there is some news fresh off the press that the government are looking into a new category for childminding on non-domestic premises, such as those working in schools or village halls, for example. Now, this is in the consultation stage, so do watch out for more information on this in the near future. So I am hoping you are still intrigued and want to find out more. There is no doubt that childminding can be so rewarding. It offers a home-from-home environment which larger nurseries and preschool settings can struggle to recreate. Caring for smaller numbers of children ensures they receive the very best care where they feel safe, secure and ready to learn. It is an invaluable service to our many families and can offer a much gentler transition into early years education. However, you do need to think carefully about this decision. This will impact your family and the household in general. You may have to adapt the environment to accommodate your new business. There are initial setup costs to consider before you even become registered, and running your own business, although very liberating, also means you have legal responsibilities to comply with. So with this in mind, I have thought carefully about the journey you are about to embark on and created 6 steps to becoming a childminder. Let's explore this a little further. So step 1 is the most important part of the journey, as you and your family will need to invest time and money into this process prior to becoming a childminder, and certainly before making any money. We need to consider how this will impact the family unit, the premises, our financial situation and our responsibilities going forward. Really take time to talk to family members about how this may impact everyone. Ask those tricky questions and listen to what your family have to say. Childminding can work very successfully. Many childminders are very happy and see working from home as a great advantage. Just try to iron out any of those concerns at stage 1 of the process. Your family will need to be 100% on board, as you will be inviting families into their family home and safe space for long periods of time. So let's consider your own children. If you have younger children, childminding can be a great solution to earning some money whilst caring for your child. However, as they get older, life can become a little more complex. In terms of your own children, think about how you can give them that safe space to relax in. They are sharing not only their home, but you also, so may need time to adjust. Think about how are you going to reduce anxiety of new people coming into the home and potentially playing and using their things. You need to have clear boundaries over what is used and involve your children in setting out environments. And don't miss out on your own children's events or clubs. It is important this arrangement works for you and your family lifestyle. You also need to be realistic, as in early years we can often find ourselves working after hours, prepping for the next day, cleaning, training, or catching up with parents. It is important you think carefully about how you can achieve that work-life balance you and your family deserve. And the same can apply to our partners, so clear boundaries and expectations at the very start is a really good idea. Although they may not be directly working with you and the children, they will inevitably come into contact with children and families, and so are an important part of your provision. And animals, there are such benefits for children to have access to animals. However, we must remember animals are part of the family too, and this may be a big change for them. You need to make sure you are meeting all the needs. Risk assessments are a good tool to use to identify how you can make this a positive experience for all. And the Dogs Trust offers great advice on how we can support the relationship between children and animals in our homes. Despite these considerations, this experience can be truly positive for the whole family and again enhances the home from home experience childminding promotes. It just requires a little bit of forethought as to the logistics of working from home and how to retain that work-life balance that we all strive for. The Early Years Foundation Stage Statutory Framework for Childminders sets out our requirements as childminders and childcare providers. Now, we will look at this in more detail later. However, for now, let's see what it states about premises. From now on, for ease, I'm going to refer to this key document as the EYFS. So planning how you use the space within the household is really important. Things to consider would be, where will the children sleep? Where will they eat? Will they have access to outside space? Is the indoor and outdoor space currently safe and secure? And what work may I have to do to ensure that it is safe? Do I need stair gates? Things like hot tubs and ponds may cause problems, so are they covered securely? Are they safe? Do I need stickers on my glass patio doors? And how do I ensure the children can't access medication or chemicals? There is lots to think about, so risk assessments can be really useful here as they can evidence that your home is a safe and suitable environment for the children in your care. Now, there are many sample risk assessments online, so take some time to research. The important thing is that they are unique to your home environment and clearly state how you minimise hazards in the environment. If you want some support for fire safety, you can contact Hereford and Worcester Fire Service, and they give lots of hints and tips of how to meet these requirements. And those living in your home should also be involved in these discussions, as they need to understand what a safe environment looks like and adhere to those expectations around this. So setup costs can vary dependent on your current qualifications, your current suitability of your property and resources that you may already own. However, I'm hoping this slide shows the basic costs you may incur. Now, do remember this is now a business, so you will be able to put through these receipts as a business expense. Okay, so what have we got? So DBS, so anybody working or living in the home over the age of 16 will require a DBS. And there is also a £13 annual charge for the DBS update service, which we recommend you do, which allows the DBS checks to be reviewed annually. Health declarations, unfortunately, this cost range is really vast because it's really dependent on your GP service. So just speak to them directly as to the costs for this. DSL training, that should be completed every 2 years. However, we do recommend this is completed annually as safeguarding threats evolve at such a rapid pace. We do recommend you choose Worcestershire County Council training as it covers local procedures. We also offer free DSL update meetings every term to help keep you informed of safeguarding themes in the area or any updated legislation you need to be aware of to fulfil your safeguarding duties. Paediatric first aid, that needs to be completed every 3 years, and childminder assistants should also have paediatric first aid if they have unsupervised access to children. Now, the course you choose needs to cover the criteria as set out in Annex A of the EYFS, so do take a look at that. In terms of early years training, you don't need a specific early years qualification. However, you do need to demonstrate your understanding of the EYFS and your responsibilities around this. There is currently free DFE training and videos available on the Help for Providers website to support this. And we as a team are also currently working on our own local authority childminder pathway to support you. So when published, you will find this on the childminder pages of our website. So subscriptions, there are many different companies out there that offer a range of support for childminders, including training, advice, resources. Sometimes they provide insurance as well. So it's different prices for different services. So just take a look at that. Registration, now the cost is dependent on whether you join the early years register or the childcare register, but it's currently cheaper to join them both at the same time. So that's just £35 at this moment in time. Safety, so really that depends on the current facilities, your current premises, so you might have to buy a little bit of a budget to make the home safe. In terms of insurance, you'll need public liability insurance, and if you're going to use your car, you need to let your car insurance company know that you're working from home as a childminder, and you might need your car to use for your business. Generally, there's not an extra cost for this, but they just need to know that. The ICO, so as you hold personal data of your families and children, you will have to register with the ICO, and that's a £35 annual fee. So it may be that you need to make some changes to the home, so that could be fixing the fence or making a pond safe or just general maintenance. And also you probably will need some resources, so you should start to think about what resources that you might need so you can start to budget for this for the time of your registration. So as you can see, this is quite a commitment both financially and with your time as you start this process. So this should be a significant part of your considerations. So finally, running your own business requires you to follow legal frameworks in terms of health and safety. You need to think about gas, electrical, fire and water safety. You need to consider the control of substances hazardous to health, food safety, window glazing, heating and radiators as an example. Also, becoming self-employed, you will be expected to complete annual tax returns. And if you employ any assistants, then you will also have to ensure you are complying with employment law. So really a lot to think about here. So becoming a childminder also means you have statutory requirements to follow, as well as additional legal frameworks in protecting children's rights and safeguarding and protecting children from harm. So the statutory framework for the early years foundation stage for childminders is actually given legal force through the Childcare Act 2006. So this really will become your Bible and the document to refer to throughout your early years career. And this will ensure you are meeting your statutory requirements as a childcare provider. Now you can find this online. I recommend that you download this and always have this to hand. Just do an internet search for that. So in theory, every childminder needs local authority planning permission to operate a business from their premises. However, generally this has been relaxed and is usually only required if new premises are to be developed, existing premises are to be physically extended or altered, or use of the childminding or daycare is considered a material change of use to the property. So an example I have of this was a childminder who lived down a one-way track and she wanted to operate after school provision, so lengthening her opening hours. So the operation of the business was predicted to increase traffic noise or fumes over and above what would normally be expected if the property were in use as a home. So they required planning permission for that. So in general, planning permission is not normally needed where part of a home used for business purposes does not change the overall character of the property's use as a dwelling. However, I would always advise you contact your local district council for advice on this, or landlord if you have one. So it's no secret that money has been scarce in the earlier sector for many years, with childminders having to fund their own setup costs. However, from back in autumn 2023, there have been grants available to support the setting up of a childminding business. So applicants registered with Ofsted must be listed as a childminder on the Early Years Register or the General Childcare Register to receive their grant. And childminders with a childminding agency must have completed the registration process to be eligible for the first payment of £600. To receive a second payment of £600, childminding agency registered childminders must have taken on their first child within 6 months of their registration date. And childminding agencies will automatically notify the scheme when applicants become eligible for the second payment. Most childminders will find out if they can receive a grant within 2 weeks of applying. So please find the contact details of the company who manages this process on the slide. And this really brings me to the routes to registering and the choices available to you. So you can decide to register either directly with Ofsted, who will be your regulatory body, or opt to join a childminding agency, they will become your regulatory body. So we're going to investigate this in more detail on the next slide. In terms of the grants, the priority is to support childminders by helping with the costs incurred when registering and giving them the flexibility to choose their own pathway into the sector. It is generally more expensive to register with a childminder agency, and so the grants reflect this, as the government want prospective childminders to have the choice of the route that best suits their needs. So now consideration must be given to which route you would like to take. So agency or Ofsted? Now here's a question. So there's no doubt people opt to join agencies as they become the regulatory body who will ensure you are meeting the requirements of the EYFS. Ofsted inspect the agency rather than you, and therefore it can remove the worry or anxieties of leading an Ofsted inspection, which many people dread. However, agencies still need to regulate you, so many will visit your setting annually. Their role to support and professionally challenge to ensure you are providing the very best care for your families and ensure you are meeting the requirements of the EYFS. Some people may be very happy not to be inspected by Ofsted. However, the agency's judgment will become your judgment, either effective or ineffective. So joining an agency doesn't necessarily mean you are safe from the negative impact inspections can sometimes result in. I suppose you need to ask yourself, would you rather be in control of your own judgment outcome? Other reasons for joining an agency is the support they can offer you, such as training, business advice, support, mentoring, access to apps and software to enhance your business, but this will come at a cost. Alternatively, you may decide you want full autonomy over your business and therefore register directly with Ofsted. In this case, there are still membership groups that can support you in many ways, such as PACey, Childminding UK or the Early Years Alliance. These memberships can be from as little as £51 per year and offer helplines, childminding insurance, templates for policies and procedures, training and resources. And of course, if you decide to register directly with Ofsted, you will automatically get support from the Worcestershire County Council Early Years team through our regular e-bulletins, our termly network meetings, and pre-inspection or post-inspection visits from myself and colleagues. If you do register directly with Ofsted, you still have to comply with the same statutory requirements, but your inspection judgments are different. If you have children on site on inspection day, you will have the opportunity to showcase your practice and receive a judgment of either outstanding, good, requires improvement or inadequate. Completing a full inspection will mean you can give your families and future families a better insight into what you provide children on a daily basis through a detailed, personalised report, which will be published on the Ofsted website. So whichever route you choose, there is plenty of support and advice to help you succeed at every part of your journey. You just have to decide which option you will feel most comfortable with. So let's now move on to stage 2 of the process, research. So we have considered a childminding career and are hopefully still interested. So it's now time to do some more specific research. Firstly, we need to establish if there is indeed a need for childcare in our locality. In the spring budget 2023, there was an announcement of some significant changes to the funding available to our children and families, as shown on this slide. And we predict these changes will significantly increase the demand nationally for childcare places in the next few years. But what about locally? You need to do your own market research, and you can use the web address on the slide to search for local childminders. It may be even worth contacting them to inquire about the demand in the area. Now, it's worth mentioning that this information is correct at the time of recording, but we are now under a new government, so please do keep yourself updated on any changes to early years funding. Okay, so once you have established there is a demand, you now need to think about what age children you want to care for. So there are two registers, the early years register and the childcare register. Childminders can register on one or both, depending on the childcare you want to provide, and most choose to register with both. So if you register on the early years register, you must understand and be able to show that you can meet all the requirements of the EYFS. Remember, this document is your go-to document and states exactly what you must do to meet the statutory requirements. And Ofsted will test your understanding of this during your registration visit. The childcare register is for children aged 5 and over and comes in two parts, the compulsory register for 5 to 8-year-olds and the voluntary register for children aged 8 and over. Now, it may be that you may want to start your provision with just early years children whilst you get established. However, if you apply for both the early years and childcare registers, it is often cheaper and it gives you flexibility. For example, if one of your early years children has an older sibling and the parents decide they would like them to be together in holidays or before and after school, you may be able to offer this provision. By providing wraparound care for older children, this can significantly increase your income and help your business to become financially viable. Now, you don't need to understand the EYFS if you only want to join the childcare register, but you will need to declare that you can meet all the requirements of that register when you apply. Now, this document was really tricky to find, but you can find this through an internet search if you pop in childminders on the compulsory childcare register, Ofsted requirements, and then similarly search for the voluntary version. If you decide to be a nanny caring for children in their own home, you can choose to apply to the voluntary section of the childcare register. So you've decided what age of children you would like to care for, but now we have to understand how many children we can care for. And this is an important part of the process as it will help you establish the financial viability of your business. Now, the EYFS states at any one time, childminders, whether providing the childminding on domestic or non-domestic premises, may care for a maximum of 6 children under the age of 8. Of these 6 children, a maximum of 3 may be young children, and there should only be 1 child under the age of 1. A child is a young child up until 1st of September following his or her 5th birthday. And any care provided for older children must not adversely affect the care of children receiving early years provision, and you must also be able to meet the older children's needs. Now, exceptions to ratios are permitted as shown on the slide. However, the key message to hold on to is the total number of children under the age of 8 must never exceed 6 per adult, and the quality of care, safety and security of children must always be maintained. And this includes the requirement of the children usually being in sight and hearing of the childminder, and when eating, they must always be in sight and hearing. It may be to support ratios you wish to employ an assistant, and if this is the case, there are some stipulations around this which you can read about in the EYFS. The number of children you can care for is also determined by the space of your premises as set out in the EYFS. During your research, it would be advisable to measure the usable space for play available to you. You should not include space that is obscured by large furniture, and as a rule, thoroughfares are not normally to be counted in your available space. However, that said, I have seen some very creative use of hallways for book corners or role play areas. It is also up to you to determine if part of the kitchen is safely usable. The key message is that the premises and equipment must be organised in a way that meets the needs of the children. As childminders, you must also provide access to an outdoor play area, and if this is not possible, you must ensure that daily outdoor activities are planned for. Unfortunately, access to outdoor space does not mean you can increase numbers unless you are an exclusive or almost exclusive outdoor provision and you can evidence children's needs are being met. A further consideration regarding space is where the children will sleep to ensure you are following safer sleeping practices. During your Ofsted registration visit, which we will talk about later, the number of children you can care for will be confirmed by the inspector. Now, it can be great fun creating the balance of the home from home experience whilst providing an engaging place to learn for children. For further guidance, the Koru Kids website has some top tips on what to think about. However, for now, we will take some time to gain some inspiration for how to utilise your home as an educational setting. Some childminders will use a dedicated space for their settings, such as a conservatory, extension, or garden building. However, this is not a requirement. If we compare the two photos here, the image on the left appears to be a purpose-built space with permanent features in the room, such as the use of walls for images, whereas the photo on the right has removal signage, and I would imagine resources could easily be put away at the end of the day, so the family gain back their living space. Both work equally well and have their pros and cons, so it's up to you to find what works for you and your family. When setting up provision, sometimes less is more, and I would always advise childminders to be focusing on the quality of resources over quantity. Children need space to play and explore, and as long as they have access to a variety of resources, this can work well. In these images, the play space is a blank canvas every day, so you may want to rotate resources to keep children engaged and use some clever storage ideas as shown in the images. The range of resources you provide is known as continuous provision. It is those key resources that children really engage and learn from and have access to on a daily basis. Your provision therefore should always include books, rhymes, creative opportunities, sensory exploration, counting and maths opportunities, mark making, small world toys which include cars, trains, figures and animals, role play areas to include dressing up, and a home corner, as well as activities which encourage physical development, both big and small movements. I love this picture of the bathroom, which has been made child friendly with everything at child height. Children are little, so you can cleverly make use of low down spaces without impacting too much on the room. A top tip is to use everyday furniture to store resources, which can then be cleared away easily at the end of the day. Baskets are also so useful, allowing you to have different resources out each day for the children to self-select. When you are thinking about what will be safe and fun for children, role play and get down on the floor. What can you reach? What can you knock over, bump into, pull, push, stick your fingers in? And what can you play with? It may mean a little tweaking of your home to ensure your best ornament isn't in prime reach of a toddler. Now, although these are lovely photos, you don't need to have a garden as long as children can access outdoors daily. However, even the smallest outdoor spaces can enhance the experience for children and allow them the freedom to really develop physically. It's also a great area to burn off that energy, so a usable outside space is certainly beneficial to your provision. Many childminders enhance the outdoor experience by exploring the local communities, visits to the shops, parks, woodlands, libraries, etc. And subscriptions to places such as National Trust or English Heritage can also be a cost-efficient way to widen the child's experience throughout the year. And we can be clever outdoor as well in creating areas of interest for children without it taking over your whole home. Children love to engage with nature, so opportunities to plant or experience the wonderful smells of plants and flowers can be invaluable. Many childminders embark on schemes such as the Big Garden Bird Watch to encourage that love and responsibility in taking care of nature, or teach valuable lessons in being a responsible citizen by recycling or composting. In all my years in childcare, I've come to realise that children really flourish when given a meaningful job. So sweeping leaves, cutting grass with child scissors, weeding, all of these jobs are invaluable to the child experience and most importantly, their well-being. So we've started to plan our environment. Now it's time to think about your financial income and whether this will come directly from parents, the local authority, or a mixture of both. So if you register on the Early Years Register, you are eligible to sign up to the Worcestershire Directory of Funding Providers to receive nursery education funding, sometimes referred to as NEF. By registering, early years providers agree to abide to the Worcestershire Provider Agreement. Once you have applied, you will have some responsibilities. Firstly, to comply with the provider agreement, and secondly, to be open to annual NEF audits and the completion of an annual census. Applying for funding is completed termly and will involve you inputting hours into the Worcestershire County Council funding portal. Parents also have a role to play as they will need to apply for all funding other than 3 to 4-year-old funding, which is automatic. So please do signpost parents to the Childcare Choices website, which explains what they may be entitled to. Once successful, they will then need to sign an annual parental declaration, which you must retain for auditing purposes. It is important to note that within the Worcestershire Provider Agreement, it states that you cannot receive funding for children that you are directly related to. And this comes from the Childcare Act 2006, which defines childcare as excluding care provided for a child by parents or any other relatives. In England and Wales, the government has interpreted this to mean that childminders are not permitted to claim the free entitlement for their own children or other relatives. Some childminders choose not to use funding as they can charge more per hour than what they would receive through NEF. Now, this is a decision you must come to when exploring the financial stability of your business. The Worcestershire County Council website gives more specific detail if you opt in, so please do explore this or contact the funding team directly, who are a great support. And please note there is also additional funding available for disadvantaged children and those children with SEN. Now, finally, this information shared today is current today, and with the new changes in government, some of these processes will inevitably change. Our websites will keep updating as this happens. Once you are registered as a childminder, you will be invited to regular NEF meetings where you can ask any questions, seek clarification, and get advice on your funding offer. So I'm sure your parents will be keen to know when their child can receive funding. And generally a child will receive funding the term after they are eligible. For example, if a 2-year-old is eligible for the funding, this will be available the term after their 2nd birthday. To support working parents with the cost of childcare further, they may be eligible to apply for tax-free childcare. This is equivalent to 20% off their childcare bill, so encourage them to explore if this is a good option for them. If they successfully apply for tax-free childcare, some benefits will automatically stop, so it is important they explore this through the government tool on the slide. They will have to manage their account, but this is a great potential saving and is for all children, funded or not. Now, if you do choose to sign up for NEF, this can potentially improve our capacity to safeguard children and families. You may not be aware that a child living in a home with domestic violence is now recognised as a victim of abuse in their own right under the new Domestic Abuse Act 2021. Now, Operation Encompass is a notification service by the police who currently inform schools when a domestic abuse incident has happened within the home, allowing schools to meet the needs of those children the very next day. In Worcestershire, this has now been extended to early years children, meaning if a funded early years child is involved in a domestic abuse incident, the police will inform our team and we can then track the child through the funding system to a setting. We would then contact the setting to support you in supporting them. On a similar note, we also represent early years children through MARAC. MARAC is a multi-agency risk assessment conference which looks at the top 10% of domestic abuse cases in Worcestershire where there is a significant risk to life. Multi-agencies come together every couple of weeks to discuss cases referred into MARAC. This is chaired by the police and is multi-agency work and at its very best, and a time to share information effectively with all agencies involved with the victim and perpetrator. Early years are now part of this programme, so again, if a funded child attending your setting is identified as a victim, we will contact you to gather information about the child so we can represent the child's voice at the MARAC conference. This really does save and improve lives for children and families, so a great advantage to offering funded places. So before you apply to be a childminder, you need to have completed specific training. Safeguarding is obviously a huge part of the work early years professionals do on a daily basis, and therefore there will be training involved. As the registered person, you would automatically become the designated safeguarding lead for your setting and have to attend biannual training to this level. It is also expected that you will keep your knowledge up to date no less than annually. By attending the DSL training provided by the local authority, you will ensure you understand all local procedures and have access to safeguarding and child protection policy templates to support you in your role. In addition, our team provide free termly DSL network meetings where we are updated on safeguarding themes, local information, and often hear from guest speakers, ensuring we are well equipped for the role that we play. To register, please contact the Workforce Support team who will be able to give you a login to access all of our training available. In addition to the DSL training, you are required to undertake a full paediatric first aid course. The local authority do not provide this training, so we suggest you look around at a range of providers. When doing so, please ensure it meets the requirements as stated in the EYFS. Now, this training may be completed by blended learning, for example, 6 hours online and then 6 hours face-to-face. It will be the CPR and practical elements which must be completed in person. The qualification needs to be completed every 3 years, and Ofsted will need to see your full certificate on the registration visit. And if you employ an assistant and you leave them unattended with the children, they would also require this full qualification. So the EYFS states that childminders must have appropriate training, skills and knowledge to better understand their role and provide good quality early years provision. However, other than the DSL and paediatric first aid training, this is not specified as a particular course, offering you flexibility in how you gain this knowledge in readiness for your registration visit. During this visit, you will need to demonstrate a good knowledge of the EYFS. So your first protocol will be to read and digest the EYFS. This truly is your go-to document going forward, as it states clearly what you need to deliver. In addition, the DfE have developed a Help for Providers website which explains the EYFS really well. You can access videos on the 7 areas of learning to better understand how you plan your provision. Once up and running, we recommend you enrol on their free training course, which helps you to reflect on your provision and supports quality improvement. And of course, if you choose to join a support group such as childminding.co.uk or PACey, these generally have a range of courses for you to access. Regarding the local authority offer, you will find useful information within our monthly e-bulletin, which signposts to all kinds of support and information. In addition, we have been busy updating our website to now include our early years toolkit, and we are also in the process of developing childminder specific resources on our website, so please do keep accessing this regularly. Other documents to help you build this knowledge will be Development Matters and Birth to 5 Matters. I would really recommend reading both these documents so you have a very good understanding of what you are committing to deliver. Just put them in an internet search to find them. If you have already completed some form of early years training, it is still wise to update knowledge, as the EYFS was last updated in 2024 and has introduced some new terminology and priorities for working with young children. Your final research should be around the setting up of your business, and there is local authority support through this process. The support for businesses pages on the Worcestershire County Council website will signpost you to support. My top tips are to have clear terms and conditions around payment from parents, budget well, keep receipts and grow slowly. So if you're still with me, we're going to move on to step 3, application. Okay. So I'm going to work through the steps for those childminders who are registering directly with Ofsted. If you have chosen the agency route, then the agency will have their own processes to follow. So to apply to be a childminder, you need to be over 18 and have the right to work in the UK. If you are an applicant who has lived abroad in the last 5 years, then in addition to normal requirements, you will have to get a certificate of good character from an embassy. So to apply, you will need to have an enhanced check with barred lists for home-based workers from the Disclosure and Barring Service, often referred to as a DBS. The Disclosure and Barring Service carries out enhanced checks with barred lists on anyone working with children to make sure the children are safe. If you're a childminder looking after children at home, then any adults who live with you or work there regularly during childcare hours will also need a DBS check. So this could include your partner, a cleaner, housemates, lodgers, and children over the age of 16. Now, DBS checks usually take about 6 weeks to come through, however, can sometimes take longer, which can delay registration. Ofsted will only accept DBSs up to 3 months old, so I recommend you join the DBS update service, which means your check can always remain current. At the end, you will get a DBS certificate, which you can then share with parents or employees in the future, and it is this certificate that you will need to register with Ofsted. A heads up to reasons that can cause disqualification from registration, maybe if you've been convicted of a serious offence or are barred from working with children, your children have ever been taken into care, or you've been refused registration before, or if your registration has been cancelled for a reason other than not paying your annual fee, or if you live with someone who is disqualified from registration. Your health declaration will be through your doctor, and you will also have to supply contact details for 2 references. Finally, the paediatric first aid course needs to be completed within 8 weeks of applying. It is important to mention that you only get one chance to apply for registration, so it really is crucial that you have everything in place. Timing is key here, as a delay can scupper your whole registration process. The process of registration can take up to 12 weeks, so start to plan your time wisely. To apply for your DBS, you do so through the Ofsted DBS application process, which you can find on a simple internet search. It is a simple 4-step process with clear guidance as to how to complete. And remember, this will have to be completed for any assistants or over 16s living or working in the home. Keep an eye on this over time as your family dynamics change, as the DBS requirement is a legal one. Now, if you are going down the agency route, the agency will deal with the application process on your behalf. This process on the slide is for those childminders registering directly with Ofsted. Now, the health declaration is to ensure you are physically and mentally capable to care for children, but it also is there to ensure childminding is not going to affect your health negatively. This does not involve a medical, and you don't actually have to visit your doctor unless you would like to. It is quite a detailed form, as you will mostly be working alone with children, and Ofsted need to ensure both you and the children are kept safe at all times. So questions asked will be around anything that affects your physical ability to walk, balance, bend, etc. Anything that might affect your hearing or vision, even with aids, depression, panic attacks, anything that may cause excessive drowsiness, or if you have any heart problems or you are diabetic. The form also asks about any medication you are currently taking or any treatment you are currently receiving. Now, declaring conditions does not mean an automatic refusal. However, we would advise a conversation with your doctor. In complex cases, your application will most probably be risk assessed by Ofsted, who may consult with their own doctors before a decision is made. Ofsted can refuse or cancel registration if they consider that you are not suitable to care for children, or that you have knowingly withheld information or made a false declaration. So don't forget to be completely honest when you fill in the form and not withhold anything. Remember, you only get one opportunity to apply. Okay, you then need to give contact details of 2 people who can give you a reference, and you can use anyone who knows you well enough, like a friend, a neighbour, a teacher or employer, but not a family member. So Ofsted are generally asking referees if you are honest, reliable and trustworthy, and in their opinion, if you are able to look after children. And to be a referee, they must have known you for at least a year. So in preparation for creating this webcast, I have had a little play actually with the registration process, and I must say it is really easy once you have everything in place. So if we pretend we all have had our DBS's return, we've got the signed health declaration from the doctor, and we've got our paediatric first aid certificate, and we also have details of any early years training that we have undertaken, and we know what age children we would like to care for and the registers that we want to apply for. So we are now ready to fill in that application form. So you just follow the government link to the application page, and you will need to provide an email address and mobile number. An email will then be sent to you with a link to access the registration service. Now, if you need to leave the form partway through, you will be able to return and carry on at a later date. And when you return to the form, a 5-digit verification code will be sent to the mobile number that you've provided. You'll need to enter that code to access your application. So to complete the application form, you will also need details of your employment history and 2 referees and payment methods, as you will pay your application fee when you submit that form. And as you can see from the last image, there is a clear list for you to work through. You just enter details as requested as you work through the form and upload documents where required. It doesn't matter if you add things in a different order and you come in and out of the application prior to hitting that send button. However, that said, Ofsted will reject the application if you don't have all the paperwork uploaded or information input as requested. So don't hit send until you are 100% sure you have everything that you need. Once you have submitted your application, Ofsted will acknowledge this. They will then start checking your information and that of other adults who live with you. Now, if you've applied to the early years register, Ofsted will then ring you to arrange a registration visit, and that's the time to give us a ring, because we can then come out to you and help you prepare for that. Now, if everything goes to plan and there are no delays, you could be registered within 12 weeks. Now, I do recognise that people can get very nervous when Ofsted are mentioned, but there really is no need. We must remember they are our regulatory body who are ultimately there to ensure children are safe, well cared for, and make good progress in their learning and development. They are also trying to ensure that as early years providers, we are fulfilling our legal requirements as set out in the EYFS, and if we are caring for older children, the requirements of the childcare register are being complied with. In doing so, this also reassures our parents that children are safe and with adults who are suitable to meet the child's care and developmental needs. So if you're registering on the early years register, an Ofsted inspector will visit your home in order to ensure you fully understand the requirements of the EYFS and that your setting is safe and suitable for the children in your care. The registration visit is the most important part of the registration process and will normally take place once all the checks are complete, but may take place earlier. This is a pre-booked visit and you will need to be prepared to share documentation and be able to articulate confidently how you are going to fulfill the EYFS requirements. What is required on the day will be discussed in the telephone conversation with the inspector prior to their visit. It's therefore really important to be organised and have all information free to hand. There are some examples of documentation to be verified on this slide. On arrival, it's important that you ask the inspector for proof of identity. All inspectors will carry photographic identity cards to support this. In addition to checking your documentation, the inspector will want you to explain how you intend to implement the legal requirements of the EYFS. A thorough knowledge of the statutory framework is therefore vital. The inspector will talk to you and take notes about what you say to help decide about your suitability to care for children. So you should really think about how you will put into practice the 4 principal themes of the EYFS framework: the unique child, positive relationships, enabling environments, and learning and development. So you might want to check out Birth to 5 Matters to understand this better and how these all interlink when planning for children's learning. You must be able to reassure the inspector of the inclusivity of your setting, regardless of children's heritage, background and needs, so all children have the opportunity to experience a challenging and enjoyable programme of learning and development. The inspector will also check your premises, furniture, equipment and toys that you may have, including outside. Now, they don't expect all resources and equipment to be in place, but you will need some for the ages of children you are registering for. It's a really good idea to have a wish list to share with the inspector. It's important that all resources and equipment are clean and comply to safety regulation. All of this will help the inspector understand how you intend to care for and educate young children, remembering that all children learn most effectively through purposeful play. So in preparation for these questions, really start to unpick the EYFS and be ready to respond to how you will deliver this. And on the slide, there are just some random questions. You might want to pause and have a read of those. However, it will be probably to your advantage if you lead some of the dialogue rather than waiting to be asked. So for myself, if I was going through a registration visit, I would want to talk about my values and beliefs about childhood and how that makes an impact to children. So personally, I would speak about the importance of children having freedom to explore the seasons and the natural world and how this supports mental health. I would talk about children developing a sense of belonging in their communities and learning that they can make a positive difference to others. I would advocate for physical development where children are active in building core strength and stamina. So when they do go to school, they have control over their bodies so they can sit when they are developmentally able to. I would talk about allowing children freedom in their play, which helps us as adults to introduce new vocabulary, and how developing imaginations is the start of that early storytelling. Now, everyone listening to this webcast will have different priorities dependent on your own values and beliefs regarding the early years. So really think about how you can show your passion and help the inspector understand what makes you stand out from the crowd. Now, it's the safeguarding and welfare requirements section of the EYFS that helps us to keep children safe. The registration visit will therefore focus on how you will do this through checking your understanding of your safeguarding responsibilities. So to support this, it may be a good idea to consider what policies, procedures and documentation you should have to evidence this. Now, there are only 3 written policies required as a childminder. However, I would urge all early years providers to develop a range of policies which cover your practice and demonstrate how you keep children safe and meet the EYFS requirements. The process of writing policies is a great way to think and reflect on your provision, to really think about those tricky situations. What happens if a parent doesn't collect a child? You can use templates from many sources, but just make sure your policies are relevant to your unique practice. When scenarios occur, ideally you would go to your policy for the answer, and if it's not there, the policy may need adapting. They should be a working, evolving document. Having and sharing policies and procedures with parents also promotes the professionalism of what you do. If your medication policy states children will be sent home if they reach a certain temperature, then this is transparent to your parents from the very start. Policies are also important if you do employ an assistant or choose to co-mind. In addition, Ofsted will expect you to have risk assessed your home and garden to ensure the safety of children in your care. So it's up to you to decide whether these are written. However, I would argue written risk assessments can help to inform practice and demonstrate how risks are managed to both parents and other professionals. Again, this is just a handful of potential questions you might be asked. My advice is to make sure you know the statutory guidance inside out and get your family to ask you questions, because it's only when we start to think about different scenarios that we can start to formulate our responses to these. So you may want to take a snapshot of this slide to refer back to at a later date. And here are some more questions on this slide to consider. So again, take a photo or a snapshot of it if you would like to. So the Early Years Inspection Handbook can be another great tool to help you understand what inspectors are trying to evidence, as although this is not an inspection, this is what your end goal really is. The inspection framework currently judges settings on 5 different areas, so safeguarding, leadership, quality of education, behaviour and attitudes, and personal development. If you hold these in mind during your registration visit, it may be easier to plan for. Now, the date and time of your registration visit will be pre-planned, allowing you to be prepared and, dare I say it, be able to enjoy the experience. I would advise all documentation is in one place, so easily accessible on the day to avoid any last-minute panics. It is then about showing your passion for working in early years, explaining your story and vision for children in your care, and why this is so important to you. Honesty is also important here. As a new childminder, it will take time to embed practice. So if you have plans, talk about how you will build slowly to ensure your practice is consistently good. Speak about any recent training you've been on and how this will impact practice, referring to key documents such as Birth to 5 Matters, Development Matters, and the EYFS. You can also talk about how you will evaluate practice and the support networks you hope to engage with, whether this be other childminders or networks in place through the local authority. Remember, this is your first impression and you only get one shot at this application. If you are prepared and true to yourself, all should go well. At the end of the visit, the inspector will tell you whether they will recommend you suitable or not suitable for registration. If you are refused registration, you'll be disqualified from applying to be a childminder in the future. So it's really important, if the visit isn't going well, that you can actually consider withdrawing your application mid through that registration visit, so you're able to reapply at a later date. If you are successful, Ofsted will publish your early years number, name and address, and any inspection reports or letters on its website. You can request for your name to be admitted if you prefer. If you are refused registration, the notice of intention to refuse registration is a legal document which will set out why registration is refused. You can appeal against the decision, providing it is within 14 days of the date on the notice. It's really important to keep all correspondence, emails and contact details when dealing with Ofsted. So once registered, your relationship with Ofsted is one of a supportive nature and compliance. Generally, settings on the Early Years Register are inspected within 30 months of registration, and as it stands currently, every 6 years unless concerns are raised about your setting. If you are only on the childcare register, you may or may not be inspected, as only a sample of settings will be selected at random. Now, it is important that you keep Ofsted updated with any significant changes to your provision. This could be changes to anyone in the household, your contact details, days and times of opening, or if you've had to close temporarily for illness or recuperation. Many childminders and settings have fallen down on this and received inadequate judgments at their next inspection because they failed to notify Ofsted of something important. My advice is, even if it seems minor, let them know and retain the email or telephone correspondence as evidence of informing them. Now, Ofsted are working really hard to recognise and acknowledge the unique experiences childminders can provide children and the positive impact this has on early years education and care. As part of this, they continue to develop resources and support in many different forms, so do check out their blogs and help pages, which can be found on a variety of social media platforms. So you are now a fully fledged childminder. You have your certificate and early years reference, and it's time to register your first families. Don't forget, this is the time to ensure you have set up all your business requirements, such as registering with HMRC and the ICO. When childminders register with Ofsted, they will automatically be registered with their local authority as a food business. You must therefore comply with food safety and hygiene regulations if you provide food and drink for children or babies. It is a good idea, therefore, to look at the Safer Food website, which has a childminder specific pack to download. It is so important you keep on track with your accounts regularly, so think about the systems you are going to use to record income and expenditure, and ensure you are really clear on hours of opening and cost per hour for your families. It may be a good idea to set out clear terms and conditions for your families in regards to the service you provide and payment conditions for this. Registering with Worcestershire County Council should be automatic, as Ofsted do contact us when you first register. However, if you don't hear from us, you will need to speak to the systems team who can get you set up on our system. So do please see some other useful emails on this slide. In regards to advertising, you can advertise through Worcestershire County Council if you allow us permissions. Once you have a login for the provider portal, you can log on and complete an online form called Update Your Details, which includes consents for us to advertise for you. So in readiness for your families, you will need to create registration forms, and this is also the time to finalise any policies and procedures that you want to share with registered parents. Now, the practicalities and logistics of running a childminding business really can only be learned on the job. So be ready to adapt and reflect on your provision so you are continually improving. This will take time and patience. The first few weeks may be difficult as you settle into the role whilst also settling in the children. So be kind to yourself and celebrate those small wins. It may be a good idea to start as you mean to go on and start to develop an action plan to work towards. The early years team can support with this. You will soon appear on the early years caseload, meaning you will be eligible to free support as a proposed setting and then one newly registered until your first official inspection, which is usually at 30 months. We can also support with a safeguarding self-assessment audit, which helps you ensure you are meeting all the safeguarding and welfare requirements. It demonstrates great leadership, being able to identify strengths and areas for development. And if you can involve parents, professionals and children in this process, this can be really great for quality improvement. Now, delivering the EYFS is a whole separate training course, so please keep an eye out for training in the training directories. This would be a good training course once you have been in practice for a while and you have some experience to reflect upon. So step 6 is around compliance and Ofsted's role within this. Inspecting registered childminders helps to improve the quality of childcare and early education by making judgments about the quality of the care that childminders offer and recommendations about how to improve this. Childminders must provide evidence of their continued suitability and show how they meet requirements at inspection. Childminders who fail to meet or fully meet the specific requirements at inspection are given actions to improve, and where there are serious concerns, Ofsted takes other enforcement action to bring about improvement. Now, sometimes Ofsted may receive information from parents and others about the childminding provision. So to ensure that registered providers continue to remain suitable for registration, they may carry out an inspection, refer the information back to the childminder or investigate the matter. Where childminders cannot provide evidence that they meet requirements, Ofsted may give them actions to improve. Where there are serious concerns, Ofsted may take other enforcement action to bring about improvement, and these powers include in extreme cases prosecution and refusal, suspension or cancellation of registration. But don't panic, please don't panic. Most childminders are rated good or outstanding. Separate training is available for preparing for inspection, and I would recommend that you don't leave this until the last minute. Ofsted's role is to ensure we are meeting the statutory requirements, so we should always be working towards this to ensure we give children the very best start in life. And there we have it. I do hope I have given you some food for thought and helped you to understand the processes better. Please do contact us for any clarification or further advice. I just want to wish you good luck, and for those of you still interested in becoming a childminder, we really do very much look forward to working with you in the future. Take care.